There's a lot of fun solutions to the problem of faster-than-light travel in sci-fi, like hyperdrives and jump gates, but sometimes it's wormholes, which are actually potentially real, though they don't look quite the same as most of their fictional depictions. We'll check out that today, along with putting pencils through paper to explain how wormholes work,
What'd you say?
and melt our brains with some of their bizarre properties. Going faster than light is impossible. It's not like the speed of sound. Light speed is a far more fundamental limit. But wormholes are a way to cheat since they don't touch your speed, they decrease the distance. They're a distortion in space-time that provides a handy shortcut, as we can see on this diagram. This picture still isn't quite right though, since on this, normal space is two-dimensional. It has length and width. This bend in it is just there for convenience's sake. What a wormhole does is tunnel through the extra dimension of depth to make the shorter route. Since here, space itself is 2D, the mouth of the hole is also 2D. It may not seem like that on the diagram, but we have the benefit of seeing the extra dimension because we exist in three-dimensional space. We have depth by default. So to us, in our space, a wormhole's mouth wouldn't be like a vortex or a drain hole into somewhere like those in Farscape, or a glimmering circle like Stargate has. More on that later. Instead, the mouth would be a sphere. It's a three-dimensional hole that goes through a fourth dimension that makes my head hurt when I try to visualize it. Luckily for us, Interstellar has an amazing wormhole mouth we can look at instead. What's going on with all that crazy light distortion though? Remember how on the 2D version there was this slope down into the hole? That's what this lensing is. That slope, but in 3D. It's light bending down and pathing around the mouth. The steepness of this slope is what determines how strong the lensing is. The appearance of the throat of the wormhole is going to be weird too. It's not going to be a watery tunnel or a path of bright light, it's going to be more of those distortions, repeating the images from the mouth, and the longer the throat is, the more repetitions there's going to be. While this is weird, it is also kind of uninteresting to look at. This is travel along a tube of space-time going through a higher dimension after all, so it's no surprise that even Interstellar had its wormhole interior be something else entirely. If your mind hasn't melted just yet, now we're going to get into some of the whys behind wormholes, along with some of their peculiar properties. Take a moment to prepare yourself for the complicated bit by considering joining our Patreon for early access to videos and other rewards. Wormholes themselves are hidden inside the physics of black holes and singularities. The extremely complicated maths says that it's possible for two singularities to reach down so far into the fourth dimension that they touch and merge into a wormhole. This solution to Einstein's work was discovered by Ludwig Flamm, but it went unnoticed for 16 years until it was independently discovered again by Einstein and Nathan Rosen, which is where the term Einstein-Rosen bridge comes from. You might have heard that before, like in the MCU in reference to the Bifrost, so that is actually a wormhole. While these bridges work fine for fiction, in reality this link between two singularities would actually detach so fast that not even light could get through. Getting trapped forever in a singularity is not great for travel, so we need to do some different maths to make a stable and traversable wormhole. Problem is, it turns out this requires negative energy from exotic matter due to reasons I can't explain. Look, just go read Kip Thorne's excellent book on the science of Interstellar. He describes it far better than I ever could because he's the physicist who came up with this concept in the first place for Carl Sagan's book Contact. If you found some exotic matter to use for making a stable wormhole, what are some of the properties of your new toy? Well, for one, the mouths are just like any other gravitational body. They follow the same laws of motion as anything else does, so they have momentum and can orbit around stars and stuff. They move. Also, if they have an electrical or magnetic charge, they can also be pushed and pulled around using that, so they can also be moved. One thing to remember though is that when you do this, the throat of the wormhole itself doesn't change. It always stays the same length. Even just going in and out of a mouth moves it. When you enter a mouth, your momentum is transferred to it, and when you exit the other mouth, the opposite happens, like recoil. Weird, right? Using that, you can have another way of moving wormholes around, just like how the Illuminate in Helldivers moved their wormhole from its original position. One of the more problematic things with wormholes is that, like any FTL system, they imply time travel. This is another one of those brain melt resulting things from relativity that is related to time dilation. Imagine you fire off one end of a wormhole along a 10-year circular route at relativistic speeds. Since that mouth went so fast, it has experienced only 9 years due to time dilation. But remember that the distance through the wormhole has never changed, so along that specific path, both mouths are still the same age. Imagine there was a synchronized clock on each mouth. To an external observer, the clock on the younger mouth is behind, but if you look through the wormhole, they're still synced. The only way both can be true is if the path through the wormhole is a route backwards through time. Oh, am I the only one with a headache? You can see why fiction generally ignores this side of physics. It's unintuitive to say the least, but it does give a good reason why wormholes can be used for time travel in various settings. Another issue with traversable wormholes is that they're exceptionally unlikely to have arisen naturally. The requirements for one to exist are just too extreme to have occurred by chance. There is plenty of room here though for them to have been made deliberately by a highly advanced civilization, and I find it fascinating that fiction generally follows this as well. There are some exceptions of course, like the Barzan wormhole in Trek, or EVE Online with its whole networks of them appearing and disappearing over time. Speaking of fictional wormholes, I really gotta highlight Stargate, because that's what Stargates are. This isn't a slight against Farscape or anything, both shows are amazing, and I know the overarching plot of Farscape is all about wormholes, but they're just far more prevalent in Stargate. Plus, the gates spin.
It has to spin, it's round.
So, Stargates. On the face of it, the wormholes here seem very odd when compared to what they would really be. Like, they're 2D and one way and look like puddles. But the gates are more complicated than that. They're actually more like Star Trek's transporters, or even the other types of transporters in Stargate. They dematerialize objects that touch the shimmering water event horizon thing, turn them into a pattern of subspace data, and then send that through a wormhole where it all gets put back together again. To me, it seems like this blue water stuff isn't actually the wormhole. It's just a feature of the gate that does file compression. It's entirely possible the wormhole the gates create and use is actually spherical and just unseen. If it's only used to transfer compressed subspace data and things like radio waves, it could actually be a teeny tiny micro wormhole, which explains why it's never seen, and how even relatively primitive human tech can provide the power to create and sustain one. This also means the one-way nature of the system is a feature of the file compression system of the Stargates, and has nothing to do with the wormhole itself, which is why uncompressed data like radio waves can go both ways. That little detail there has always bothered me about the show. It felt like a cop-out to have the whole identification code system for the iris to work, but looking at it through the lens of real wormhole physics, and suddenly there's a solution right there. Man, Stargate. Lore so good that you can easily attach real physics to it in a way where things end up making more sense than before. And I hope the same goes for you and your understanding of the wacky world of wormholes. They truly are strange things, but an utterly fascinating way to get around the galaxy. You can support Spacedock by joining our Patreon, where you can get our frigate, fighter and carrier design reference books, as well as 1 week early access to upcoming videos. Thanks to our supporters, and thank you for watching.